I spent $4,000 on an advanced English communication course, and I still hide in the bathroom when my international boss walks into the office.
You did not buy a communication course, Adam. You bought a grammar course disguised as communication, and now you are terrified because you realize that perfect verbs cannot save you from a real human interaction.
But the course taught me business English. I know how to negotiate. I know how to present a slide deck. I have the vocabulary.
Having the vocabulary is like owning a box of tools. It does not mean you know how to build a house. When you are in the bathroom hiding from your boss, is it because you forgot the word for quarterly revenue?
No, I know all the financial terms.
Then why are you hiding?
Because I do not know how to talk to him like a normal person. If we're looking at a chart, I'm fine. But if he asks me about my weekend, I panic. I sound like a robot.
Exactly, because you do not understand what English communication actually is. You think it's an academic subject. You think it's data transfer.
What else could it be, Hannah? We use language to share information. That's the definition.
That is the definition of a computer network. Human communication is entirely different. It's about connection. It's about rhythm, tone, and making the other person feel understood. You are so focused on the data that you destroy the connection.
How do I destroy the connection? I always answer his questions accurately.
Accurately. Listen to that word. You sound like a machine. When he asks about your weekend, do you look him in the eye?
I try to, but usually I look up at the ceiling because I'm trying to find the correct past tense verb.
And right there, the connection is broken. He sees you looking away. His brain subconsciously registers that you are uncomfortable, which makes him uncomfortable, and the communication fails, not because of your grammar, but because of your eyes.
That's not fair. I'm just trying to give him a good sentence.
He does not want a good sentence. He wants to know if you had a good weekend. You are prioritizing the language over the person. That's the biggest mistake every English learner makes.
So I should just speak broken English while staring directly into his soul? That sounds terrifying.
I'm not saying you should stare aggressively. I'm saying you need to stop treating English like a performance. You're acting. You're playing the role of a smart employee.
I have to play that role. If I sound stupid, I will lose respect. I might lose my job.
You will lose respect much faster if you refuse to engage. Let me ask you a painful question. When you do finally speak, do you speak fast or slow?
I speak as fast as I can.
Why?
Because if I speak quickly, maybe they won't notice my mistakes, and I want to sound fluent. Fluent people speak fast.
That is a massive illusion. Nervous people speak fast. Confident people take their time. Confident people pause.
If I pause, they'll think I don't know the language. They'll think my brain is broken.
No, if you pause correctly, they'll think you're considering your thoughts. You're confusing a nervous silence with a powerful pause.
I don't understand the difference. Silence is silence.
A nervous silence happens in the middle of a sentence when you forget a word. Your eyes go wide. You say a lot. You look panicked.
Yes, that's exactly what I do. It's awful.
A powerful pause happens before you start the sentence or between two complete thoughts. You hold eye contact. You breathe. You take control of the time.
I feel like I'm not allowed to control the time. English is not my native language. I feel like I'm borrowing their time, so I need to rush.
That's a victim mindset, Adam. You are a professional. You earn your place in that room. Your thoughts have value. But if you rush through your words, you're telling the room that your words don't matter.
That hits hard. I actually do that in meetings. I rush to the end of my update so the native speakers can take over again.
And by doing that, you strip away your own authority. You must slow down. Speaking slowly does two things. First, it makes you look confident. Second, it gives your brain an extra half second to find the right words.
Okay, slow down, make eye contact, stop obsessing over accuracy. It sounds easy, but in the moment my heart rate goes up and I forget all of this.
Because you're fighting years of bad habits. You can't fix this just by understanding it logically. You have to train your body to handle the stress.
Train my body? We're talking about English communication, not lifting weights.
It's exactly like lifting weights. Speaking a foreign language under pressure causes a physical stress response. Your throat tightens, your breathing becomes shallow, you lose access to your vocabulary.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. My chest gets tight and my voice sounds higher than normal.
Because you're suffocating yourself. You hold your breath while you think of the English words.
I don't hold my breath.
Pay attention next time. You inhale, you hold the air in your chest, you panic about the grammar, and then you try to squeeze the words out. You're speaking from your throat instead of your stomach.
How do I fix that? I can't control my subconscious stress.
You fix it by practicing your communication out loud in a specific way, not by reading silently, not by writing emails. You must practice the physical act of speaking.
Like standing in front of a mirror? I tried that. It feels ridiculous.
It feels ridiculous because you don't know what to say to the mirror. You just stand there judging yourself. You need a better method. You need to shadow.
Shadow? What does that mean? Like a spy?
No, shadowing is the ultimate tool for English communication. You take a piece of audio from a native speaker, a podcast, an interview, anything natural. You play a sentence and you immediately repeat it.
So I just copy them? I've done that in language classes. The teacher says, repeat after me, and we all repeat like robots.
That's repeating. Shadowing is different. Shadowing is acting. You don't just copy the words, you copy their exact breathing, you copy their pauses, you copy their emotion. If they sound angry, you sound angry. If they whisper, you whisper.
Why does the emotion matter? I just need the words.
Because English is not a flat language. It goes up and down. The emotion changes the meaning of the words. If you don't practice the emotion, you'll always sound like a tourist.
Give me an example. How does emotion change the meaning?
Take the phrase, right now. Say it like you're calmly telling me the time.
It's happening right now.
Good. Now say it like you're a furious boss demanding a report.
I need that report right now.
Did you hear what your voice just did? Your pitch dropped. Your volume went up. You hit the word now like a hammer.
Yes, it felt more aggressive.
You didn't think about the grammar, you felt the intention. Shadowing teaches your mouth to connect English words directly to your emotions. It removes the translation step entirely.
Wait, that's huge. If I connect the words to the emotion, I stop translating from my native language?
Exactly. When you're furious, you don't have time to translate. You just speak. Shadowing builds that direct bridge, but you have to do it every single day.
I can commit to that, but I have another problem, Hannah. Even if I fix my voice, I still run out of things to say. Small talk is a nightmare for me.
Small talk is only a nightmare because you think you have to be entertaining. You think you need to tell amazing stories.
Do I not? Native speakers are always joking and telling stories. I sit there quietly because I have nothing funny to add.
You don't need to be the entertainer, Adam. The secret to small talk is being a brilliant listener. People love to talk about themselves. You just need to know how to keep them talking.
How do I do that? I usually just say, oh, that's nice, and then the conversation dies completely.
Because, oh, that's nice is a dead end. It's a closed door. You need to use open loops. You need to ask questions that force them to keep explaining.
Give me a real example. Let us say my boss says, I went fishing this weekend.
What would you normally say to that?
I would say, did you catch anything?
And he will say, yes, 2 fish. And the conversation is dead again.
Exactly. See, it is impossible.
It is not impossible. Your question was a simple yes or no. You need to dig deeper. When he says, I went fishing this weekend, you reply with an emotional question. Say, fishing, that requires so much patience. Have you always done that?
That is completely different. It asks about his personality, not just the fish.
Exactly. And suddenly he's talking about his childhood or his father who taught him or why he needs to escape the city. You're no longer struggling to find English words. You're just guiding his story.
I'm taking notes right now. This changes everything. I just guide the conversation instead of carrying it.
Yes, and you can use tiny bridging phrases to show you're listening. Native speakers use these all the time. Phrases like, no way, or you're kidding, or what happened next?
I know those phrases, but I feel fake when I use them.
You feel fake because you're trapped in your student identity. You think it's against the rules to use informal language with your boss, but those small phrases are the social glue of English communication.
Social glue, I like that term. It connects the pieces together.
It does, but let's go back to the hardest truth of all. None of these techniques will save you if you refuse to tolerate discomfort.
I hate discomfort. My whole life is built around avoiding it.
Which is why your English communication is failing. Fluency is not a state of comfort. Fluency is the ability to navigate through the discomfort.
You will forget words. You will mispronounce things. People will ask you to repeat yourself. When someone asks me to repeat myself, I feel a physical pain in my chest. It feels like absolute failure.
Change the frame, Adam. When someone asks you to repeat yourself, they're telling you that they want to hear what you have to say. They care enough to ask you to try again. If they didn't care, they would just smile and walk away.
I never looked at it from that angle. They want to understand me.
Yes, they're on your side, but you treat them like enemies waiting to judge you. You must drop the defensive shield. The next time you forget a word, don't panic. Don't look at the ceiling.
What do I do then? Just stand in silence?
Look them directly in the eye, smile, and say, I just lost the word I was looking for, but basically I mean this. And then explain it simply.
That feels incredibly vulnerable.
Vulnerability is power. It shows confidence. Only a highly confident person can admit they forgot a word without falling apart. It makes you human, and humans want to communicate with humans.
Not robots.
Not robots. You have spent years programming yourself to be a perfect grammar machine. It's time to unplug the machine. Start using your voice. Start taking up space. Start controlling the speed of the room.
I'm going to try the shadowing technique tonight. I need to connect my voice to my emotions. I need to break the robot.
Don't try it, do it. In fact, start doing it right now with this exact conversation. Use the transcript of this episode. Read my lines out loud. Read your own lines out loud. Put the anger, the frustration, and the realization into your voice.
I'm actually going to do that. Having the written words in front of me will stop me from worrying about grammar while I practice the emotion.
That's exactly what the transcript is for. It's your training ground. Use it until the rhythm feels completely natural in your mouth. We're Adam and Hannah, and this is the English Mint Podcast.
Learn daily, speak fluently.
Hit subscribe if you're ready to stop hiding in the bathroom and start dominating your conversations. See you tomorrow.